Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Day After Podcast.
So, we ran out of our budget for this podcast. So, the reward for you guys for watching this, because it is Thanksgiving when it's coming out, happy Thanksgiving,
Yep.
you are just getting a turkey. No sides, no
Nope.
refreshments, no drinks or anything, just a turkey. You
Yeah.
don't get a plate, just a turkey.
Yeah. Which I saw a statistic recently. Apparently, they put turkey as the second worst Thanksgiving food.
I, I don't think, I think it's one of the things where this is a whole tangent because I'm personally offended as the
Yeah.
person who has made the turkey for the past what was it, 7 years, 20
Yeah.
since 2017. I'm like, no, it's still loved. It's just I think a lot of people are like, oh, because it's I wouldn't say overrated, but because it's the main course and stuff, some people are like, oh, it's overrated.
Yeah,
Also, some
I
people,
think it's more just it can people can mess it up more often than some of the other foods at Thanksgiving, and
which is fair.
so I think a lot of people probably have people who give them dry turkey quite often, and
Yeah.
I mean, but put some gravy on it, and it's delicious.
Or just make sure the person making it knows what they're doing.
Yeah,
Uh,
you know,
or if or just get one of the ones that's already pre-seasoned and all that stuff and just throw in the oven. They do have those.
yeah,
Um,
true.
if you're not that culinarily inclined.
Yeah,
Side tangent aside. But yeah, it just when I saw that victory, it was like, oh, it's chicken. I'm like, okay, they're gonna have little stuff, and they get there, and it's just like just one chicken. And
yeah.
I'm like, my first thought was like, did they? I know that Sanctuary is their like cheap alternative for like rewards and stuff, but I'm like, did they just blew their budget with the auction last episode and was
Y-
like, hey, we
Yeah,
gotta cut.
yeah, I think Jeff needs to stop with the where good things happen, because this is more like where okay things happen. Is in
Yeah,
this sanctuary.
I mean, don't get me wrong. If I'm
It's
starving and
food.
stuff, I'm grateful for a chicken.
Yeah,
However, I don't want to say it's the worst survivor reward I've ever seen, but with no sides and no like even not even like cola and stuff. It doesn't have to be like anything fancy. Not even
yeah,
or like no cola, no juice or anything.
yeah.
Like I think they didn't even reply fresh water. It was
Nope.
just chicken.
Remember, I think it was Tony and Trish and Cagayan won like a dozen pizzas, and there was just the two of them who just got to eat a bunch of pizzas. Like,
But
you
I
know,
mean, like you're getting quantity
well, no,
and
that's
that.
what I'm saying. That's way better. Like that. Those
Yeah.
are the rewards that you're used to. Is like way more food than possible. Because like I think the reason they thought it was okay was only three people were doing this. But like, that's still like it's just not good enough.
Even for two people, they would be
Yeah,
like, "Oh, hey, here's at least some mashed potatoes or like some mixed vegetables or something like
yeah,
that."
yeah.
Um, I don't think they even took into account vegetarians either.
Nope. Yeah, it's not like season 39 where they really counted for Nora's diet.
Yeah.
There was vegetarian options on pretty much every reward because of her.
Now, granted, I don't know if anyone left or like, including Kendra, was a vegetarian. So maybe it's one of the things like, okay, no health restrictions, boom, chicken.
Yeah.
But granted, it's not my biggest takeaway, but I have to do something for the cold open. And I was like,
Yeah.
hey, chicken. It's usually something funny that happened within the episode. Um, this episode, man, like when we got to the immunity challenge, like super early on, I'm like, wait a sec. Are we having like a double elimination episode?
Yeah.
And then like when I did the math in my head, I'm like, no, because it doesn't necessarily align with everything.
Yeah.
But like I was like, whoa, we're like barely 20 minutes into this thing.
Yeah, yeah, I think this is I will say just to start it off, did not like this episode. This is to me, I was not a fan of a lot of things that happened in this episode. This is the episode that I think most we saw the new era ruining what could have been a very interesting vote.
Yeah.
And I think this is what I was afraid of with the 90-minute time was because they gave a lot of time to the challenge, which I get it. It's a multi-part challenge, but I just felt like as you said, that they really were trying to build up this and it just the fact that it basically took away any swing votes that could have happened and created the majority alliance to just walk over a final 9 votes um is not good. Like that like this is a pivotal part of the game and it just created a situation where it was the not, you know, but old Bello couldn't do anything. Emily is now kind of going to have to ride with Reba now because it's just it's
That's all she can do, really.
yeah, she can join Old Bello and go to Rocks, but like like that's not a great move option either. So and then
Well,
that would just be guaranteeing Reba's like upset at you for the rest of the game. So it's
I
uh
will say I don't blame the episode, or I don't blame the game makers behind this. And I don't even blame the contestants even. I think it's just that the challenge, the chips fall where they may. And, it was one of the things where the people that were involved where they could get their vote back. It was a math problem, one of those brain teasers. And it's like one of those things where, oh, you're either good at those or you're not. And especially with like how it is where it's a math one where it's like, okay, you kind of actually have to do the numbers and be really quick about it. Like you definitely need some math skills there. And it just so happened that the one Reba member that was on that was really good at math, figured it out. And so, oh, it was like the Reba 4. And it was a very straightforward kind of vote. I feel like the editors, they did the best they could. I mean,
yeah, well, I don't blame the editors. I do blame the game makers personally. I think the fact that we are at now going into final eights and we haven't had a normal votes. No one has had a straight like everyone is guaranteed to vote and make a difference at this vote. That hasn't happened yet, and we're going in final eight. Like that is ridiculous. Like that they wanted to kind of put in a multi-person vote elimination here.
I kind of like it though. I'm gonna say, I think it could have. I would say like the edit would be like not letting people choose their teams because everything was balanced. I did like that it was balanced. However, people were able to strategize, oh, have the numbers here. Granted, they're going into it blind, but like, that majority alliance was able to have everyone on each one of the Reba. I don't
Mhm.
know. I feel like it's more so like if the if it was a different scenario or a different outcome, or let's say Bruce didn't win, and let's say Bruce's side lost their votes, and then this, or if Jake and Drew and that one they lost their vote instead. It's like one of the things where if something else kind of tipped in the other's favor, it could have been a whole different story.
Yeah, and I'm not, I don't even buy into results-based analysis. I would be upset over this twist, regardless, like, the fact that it happened obviously really makes it even more sour in my mouth, but I just am like, I want to see the players play, like, every time
Yeah.
that we like and that's why the pre-merge was so good. There was a lot of just let them play. Sure, maybe something's going around, but, like, it's still them making the decisions. It's them having to go out there and play. It doesn't feel like we're getting that at this post merge. It feels like we're getting a lot of the game is playing. Just try to not be the one to go out from the game, and that is just not the way I wanted this post merge to be going so far.
Yeah, I do feel like to kind of expand on that, or like, to be like, if they do it next episode at 8, then it would be like, oh, okay, this is getting a bit too repetitive.
Yeah.
But I know, like, maybe for you and some other audience members, it's like way too much. I do
Yeah.
think it was something where, I don't know, maybe like this was like, okay, this is the
Mhm.
last one before I would get tired for it. But
Yeah.
I guess for you and some other people, it's like, All right, I
Yeah.
think it's enough.
I have a theory on why we're seeing so many lost vote things happening this season, and that's because of that goodwill advantage that got gifted very early on. I think that they were afraid that maybe that person can't use it for a while, so they came up with a bunch of different ways to have people losing votes throughout the game, in
Yeah,
hopes of doing it. But the fact that Austin was the one to be able to get to play it early on
yeah.
makes now all of these things not needed, but they were like, well, we already kind of thought of it and we're kind of, so let's just go through with it anyways. And so now
Yeah.
we're kind of being forced with like I think we're gonna have people losing votes maybe up until final six.
Potentially,
Yeah.
potentially. Um, I don't know, like the game makers, things can shift as you go along. But yeah, well, we don't know.
Yeah.
I think only time will tell. I am interested to see how things do pan out in that regard. Of Yeah, we should mention this with Austin. The fact that each time he had to sacrifice, basically, when he had to either sacrifice a vote or, basically he lied about his voting status, we'll say, it never got revealed.
Yep.
It was like, oh, yeah, I had to sacrifice my vote, but I didn't really. Oh, I sacrificed my vote, but it didn't matter because it was a clean sweep. And no one really did the math problem where it was like, hey, it was actually 12, not 11 votes towards Caleb.
Yeah.
Or, hey, it was actually 6 votes against Kendra and not, 5. It was
Yeah.
one of those things where he was right in the numbers and didn't necessarily have to reveal it, which I think is a credit to him.
Mhm.
However, it's one of the things where it's kind of funny how that keeps happening with him. Is it a
Yeah.
pattern? Yeah. Could it be he's just playing the game well, or that he's just been so well positioned that he's had the luxury of doing it?
Yeah, I think him and Drew specifically are being able to do a lot of things that you can only do in the Power Alliance. Like,
Yeah.
and
The
and
core four, as they called it.
yeah, the core four is just kind of running the game, and
Yeah.
Emily is their kind of for lack of a better word, like their goon who's just able to be that extra vote. But now in the time where it was most likely she could do something and try to play a game in the middle, she loses
Assassin.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. This is the first time I'm definitely upset with an episode. So I'm sorry if I'm being a little down on this one. This is just
I mean, I get it because like we like to see things and it is kind of shaping up to be the core four, making it to Final Four.
yeah,
Because like it looks like they are extremely loyal to each other. That's a
yeah,
big takeaway. Yeah, they had, Dee and Julie, they were thinking of like they had different targets in mind. One wanted to go with Jake, the other wanted to go with Kendra. And it was just like, oh, where do we go there? And maybe Julia's like, maybe I am actually on the bottom of this alliance. Because like, she kind of mentioned it to kind of garner favor with like Kendra and Bruce. But then it would start to be like, maybe in the back of your head, that was a deep insecurity because Drew and
yeah,
Austin are super tight. The hint of the potential showmatch between Austin and Dee,
yeah,
which, there was a few times when I saw them looking at each other, I'm like, it might be there. I don't know. I'm not there. They're not focusing on it.
yeah,
But, it's something where I'm like, I see it a little bit. And then also Emily's trying to be in the mix of things as well. Plus, with lack of Julie's coverage so far, it's one of those things where it's like, maybe she could potentially turn on the four.
uh,
I don't know. I'm not a mind reader, but she's
yeah.
also. I'll let you say some stuff, and then there's another point I want to make. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think how it's coming out right now is obviously Reba 4 plus Emily at Final Five, and I kind of think Austin and Drew are either going to take out Dee or Julie at 5, and so that way Emily can lose at Fire. Like I think they might be looking at her as someone that you can take to Final Four, knowing that your alliance will just send her to Fire to take her out. Because I don't think she'll be great at fire. I don't know. I mean, maybe she's practicing a bunch out there, but um, I would be up to go against Emily in fire. If
Yeah.
out of everyone in the game, like she's probably at the top of my
It's one of
list.
those things where I think based out of who is left, that's a fair assumption.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe Drew, but then again, Drew is kind of like in those positions where he's kind of running the game. The man, it's funny, they had another Pokemon reference in this,
Yep. Yep.
by
Charizard.
D of all people. Yeah, it's
Yep.
like, oh, like Pokemon evolve, like it's Charizard now, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, um, it's kind of, one of those things where, yeah, I feel like I wouldn't say that, but like I would say the meta has shifted where it is kind of more of the dog pile. And
Mhm.
even if it's like something where, oh, it's kind of against your alliance, that's kind of have been the thing. Like, even if it's like something that you don't necessarily need to do, but like, Reba, the core four, we're like, yeah, let's just get rid of J Maya and Sifu. Like, screw them, even though like we could use them. But they were like, yeah, we'll
Yeah.
get rid of them. Just like that. And then also like when they were throwing Jake and Kendra's name, or when they were throwing Jake's name around, when Julie was doing that to Bruce and Kendra, they were like, okay, as long as it's not us. And they were like, okay, we're gonna dogpile on that, even if it goes against your alliance. Granted, I know like it goes a little deeper than that, hoping to garner favor and also stay around for another round.
Mhm.
But it's still one of those things where it's like that's just kind of been how everything's been, except for the Kelly vote.
Yeah. Yeah. I is this I think the first potential Pagonging we're getting in the new era? Because I feel like in the previous seasons, it's been like they're trying to kind of go back and forth between tribes. I feel like this is really the first time where a tribe is came into the merge and is just taking out anyone but that tribe.
Yeah, I mean, they did, and the thing is, like, Reba has two idols, and they are willing to just share it straight up.
Yeah,
Austin was like, "Oh, we're gonna split up. All right, Julie, you're alone over there. I'm gonna give you this." Without hesitation, too. It was like, "Yeah, I'm
yeah,
gonna give it to you as soon as
yeah.
possible."
I mean, he has two idols, so he can afford to give one
He can
away.
afford to do that, but
Yeah.
like, still, even with two, he is very open with sharing it.
Uh-huh.
Um, just like or sharing that information with the four.
Yeah.
And so it's like one of those things where that's a tough nut to crack at this point. And I mean, Emily was even like trying to throw Dee's name out there, and then she was like, "Oh, they're really unbreakable."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Well, I can't find any leeway here." And then, like, yeah, I feel like the Reba tribe at this point have kind of just taken over.
Yeah.
And barring, here's the thing, I think the one thing that could really stop it, and I don't even think of that, I think it's like one, Bruce has to win immunity again for the third time in a row. Share his idol.
With Katura.
That would be with Katora or Jake, because Jake's
Yeah.
still like the target or
Yeah.
the next target I feel on the Bello chopping block if it's not Bruce.
Yeah.
Share it with that and then vote for someone that they wouldn't play an idol on or a second idol on, but no one knows about the second idol except for the people within the alliance. Maybe I don't know how Kelly or I'm not sure how Kelly talked about the amulet twist.
Uh-huh.
I would imagine she may have told someone. I don't
Yeah.
know who, but it's very possible.
Yeah.
Um,
I wouldn't be surprised if Austin does do a double idol play if Bruce plays, just
yeah,
because they're in such a power position that that Bruce idol is probably the only chance that you penetrate them to stop them from just steamrolling the game at this point. So you
yeah,
just say, I'm going to play this for either, maybe one for myself probably, and then one for another person who I think maybe is getting votes.
yeah, and
And
so like.
Yeah.
that's a 50-50 shot that you hit the right target if we're talking about the Reba 4.
Hmm.
Because you don't go after Emily to weaken that number.
Yeah.
No. You go after, because after we're saying this is like 8, if they're going to make a move at 8,
Hmm.
it's like, okay, let's say Bruce wins immunity again, which I mean, he and Julie have been crushing these endurance comps.
Yep.
And it was kind of funny how the jury was even talking about like uh I forget which of the jury member, whether it was Caleb or Kelly, was like, he's been immune, or he has been, he's only been vulnerable 1 day. He's been
Yeah.
immune 16 out of the 17 days.
Yeah. I believe that was Caleb.
Yeah. So it's like one of the things where potential thing to add to his resume. Does he still win if he just wins at the end? Hard sell. I will say it was a good wake up call to Bruce, because people,
Yeah.
instead of Bruce being like, I can't believe Kelly and stuff like that, and just like brushing it off, he was like, wait a sec. He had a little bit of a self reflection, like, that's how I treat other people.
Yeah.
Fuck, is that how my daughter thinks of me?
Yeah.
And so it's like, that was like a interesting moment. I think this was a good episode for Bruce as a person, not gameplay wise, but
Yeah.
as a person, it was just like, hey, hold up, is this it? And then
Yeah.
also we got to see a bit of his backstory as well. I mean, like, we know because we've went through his bio twice,
Yeah.
about the foster care stuff, but this is the first time they like actually like talked about it and how it did affect him.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe this is the episode that turns it all around for Bruce. I I don't think he's great socially or strategically, but winning some immunities and then get into the end and being able to say, hey, I'm the only, I came on this island with a target on my back and I managed to make it all the way to the end. I mean, there could be a crazier. I mean, I think Gabler's win was crazier than the story I just gave for Bruce.
I think I think it's one of the things where it's like the first winner, or like the first, like the best most improved game, going from the first one eliminated to
Yeah,
final three or winner. I
yeah,
mean, that's a crazy story. I don't know who has the record for best improved game.
yeah. I'd
Because
imagine it would have to be like Kelly Wentworth, because
probably
her move from I think she was like fifth or sixth taken out to
she was
final
like the
four.
first one. She was the first one eliminated when San Juan del Sur switched tribes.
Yeah,
So I think it was 5. Um, going from, but then again, shorter season. So semantics, but
yeah. I guess Monica Culpepper I think probably ended around the same as, and then she made it to final three.
yeah.
So I think
But
actually, yeah, I think she might be the person.
we'll look at our statistics. This is an
Yeah.
offhand thing I'm bringing up right now, so we didn't do our homework on it.
Yeah,
We should actually, because this is a topic of discussion. Bruce
yeah,
might have a few records under his belt, after this season for, most improved game or
yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah,
Granted, when you've only been on the island for 12 hours, it's not really, you can't really go lower than that, other than, I guess, quitting before the season begins.
yeah, which has happened.
It has happened, but not necessarily to a returnee. And if they
Yeah,
do, they have alternatives for that.
yeah,
Um, if you didn't know that, Survivor does, they do cast like someone as an alternate in case someone drops out last minute.
yeah,
Um, so
yeah, yeah. Which they had to start after Fiji, I believe, because someone dropped out right before, and that's why that season has a weird number of like
19,
19.
19
Yeah,
people. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. It's one of those like stories. It's like it makes you look back at it. It's, I don't want to say Survivor what if, because it's hard to be invested into someone or really know someone who just straight up quit before the camera started rolling, I guess.
yeah,
But like, it is a possibility where it's what if, to be like, I wonder what would have happened if this one person did actually play, and how that like made the numbers and gameplay
yeah.
work.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, one person makes a whole difference on the season.
I
So
mean, Bruce himself is a huge what if he didn't get, because it affected two different seasons. This one, obviously, and last season. And it's
mhm,
like, how does things play out in 44? Does Jam Jam still win? Do like, do, does the Tika 3, is it the same lineup? Is Tika actually powering through that? And
yeah,
then who would have in the grand calculus of the multiverse, who if Bruce wasn't in this season, who takes his spot
yep.
out of the applicants? It's crazy to think about. um and obviously we don't know who, probably it could have probably been like, an older gentleman in his like late 40s or early
Yeah.
50s.
I'd have to imagine, considering that him and Julie are the only older people, and then the rest of this cast is extremely young.
Yeah, and Jeff even pointed this out. Those two have been
Yeah,
crushing it in the past two endurance comps. Like
yeah,
they've been you know they've been kind of like, hey, younger peeps, take notes.
yeah,
And the fact that those two were on the same team with Kendra and were like, hey, some would argue that this on paper may seem like the weaker of the three, but like they were like, nah, fam, we got this. Like they came in first in the one challenge, and then they won the second challenge. And then, those two being the final two in that endurance comp. It's like
yeah.
they've come to play. They've been hitting the gym. They've been, doing the stuff.
Yeah, I feel like Bruce is really trying to be a Boston Rob 2.0 over here, he's trying he was trying to lead his tribe, in the buddy system role almost early on, which made him have Kelly almost want to turn on him. And now he's winning some challenges, which was also Rob's specialty. That's especially challenges that matter,
Yeah.
very important ones, which both last week and this week, he could have potentially been a target that they're looking for.
It's
At
yeah.
least to flush an idol.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if an idle nullifier comes into play, we don't know if that is actually going to be in play. I think if Bruce loses the next challenge, I think Panic Button, you play it because who does he really have out there? Not Katura. Um, Jake kind of, but at the same time, Jake kind of was like, "Yeah, I'm on the bottom of the alliance because no one told me. Oh, wait, then we are actually voting out Kelly." He's just felt like he's on the bottom. Like even during going into tribal council, he's like, "I don't know, might be me." Um, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
So who's that leave Bruce with? Emily?
I think Bruce is on his own, and he's gonna play his idol the first time he loses immunity, and then
Exactly.
hope he immunities his way onwards, or someone wants to take him to the end, which I don't see that person, let alone multiple persons. So
No,
I
I
don't
don't
think
think
you
it's
want
that
him.
bad.
You don't even want to get him to Final Four. Like Final Four, he's going to be good at fire. I think Bruce, is definitely
Oh, I
probably.
totally see it.
I think he's probably one of the main fire people out there. I wouldn't be surprised if he, has a similar time to like a Mike Gabler. Honestly, like I bet he's going to be competing for potentially best time up there.
I mean, the thing is, it's like you would imagine the guy who has been very focused on working hard at camp up until this episode, but that also is because he was like shell shocked with everything. Um, he was always like driving like, people working around camp and stuff like that. So it would suggest that he knows his way around the fire pit, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I definitely think you gotta hope that he doesn't win, the next couple immunities, because you're gonna probably need to do one to flush his idol unless you manage to convince him that he's good. But I think he's now I think he's in alert mode right now. So
Yeah, I think you basically, if you don't have an idol nullifier, he's right now he's guaranteed to be in 7
Yeah,
because he's going to play that idol no matter what.
yeah.
Unless there's a nullifier, I don't see him.
I don't think he's risking it.
Yeah. No one
Like,
has found the Dakuwaka tribe idol yet. It's
yeah.
I'm guessing it is still out there.
I'd imagine. It's interesting. I feel like Bello, the people on Bello weren't really interested, and I feel like Reba, because Austin has two idols, maybe they're just kind of like not worrying about it too
We're good.
much. Yeah, I like that's the only reason I could think is that, which I don't know. I feel like if you're Bruce,
Still look
Jake,
for
and Katora, you should be on idle hunt mode until you're going to tribal.
I think Reba should still look for the idol too, because it's like
Yeah,
if you have it, then it's more often or not, they probably don't have it either.
yeah.
Or well, they don't have that specific idol, obviously. But it's like, hey, if you eliminate it, it's one less idol that you have to worry about them getting.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm sure they're looking for it, but I think there's a difference between when you're, in, you're worrying because you might be going home compared to you already know
yeah.
your group has power, so it's kind of like,
So
oh,
you're
I'll
just
just
casually looking.
yeah, let's go to the water well and look around on the path. Like that's probably what I'm imagining the Reba idol looks are looking like.
Yeah, I see that.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. All right. Other points of this episode. I it was a very straightforward episode in the sense of like
Yeah.
I think we did cover a lot of things. It just was like it felt like there was like one or two big events and that just kind of like spanned the episode.
Yeah. Going to the immunity challenge, did find it interesting that Jake struggled so much with the balance of, with the ball and everything. Was falling so much, they fell so far behind. And then, he managed to get through. Red Tribe's in the last. Red Tribe gets to the pulling the things out from the sands, and Jake finds all three very quickly, and they end first. Like, I thought that was a very interesting. Just like he was having a
Yeah.
terrible
Like I
time.
blinked and I was like, "Wait, what? Austin and that's it. But they were first. What the hell happened?"
Yeah.
Uh
Yeah. I was eating dinner, so I was focusing on my food too, and I looked up and was like, wait a second, what just happened?
yeah. Um no, I feel like the tier challenge stuff, I think that's always interesting.
Mhm.
Um yeah. I had fun with the challenge. I think the modified kind of like basketball thing that they do, whereas like, okay, balance it on this different hoop. That was interesting. It would
Yeah.
have been, I wouldn't say funny. It would have been interesting to see, one of them knock it off and it's like, oh man, we're scrambling now.
Kendra, it felt like Kendra was trying. She did it so many times.
I mean, like, admittedly speaking, unless
Yeah.
there's not one on the bottom or top, it's hard to get the middle one when both the other ones are, occupied.
Yeah. The middle one's probably the toughest because you gotta have
Yeah,
a little more precision, and making sure you're not overshooting or undershooting.
exactly.
Yeah, I noticed D, she did the smallest one, and she basically just like placed it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you saw that, but it like had maybe an inch off of her hands. Like she just kind of put it on.
I mean, hey, I might have to rewatch that, but
Yeah.
I mean, hey, sometimes it gets you a freebie.
Yeah.
Screw it,
Like, I don't
slam
know.
dunk.
Is that the rule? You can just like place it.
I mean, like I say, the game makers and stuff, they test these things out.
Yeah. Because otherwise, you should have just given it to Drew, and he could have got that second one. Because he's probably tall enough to do that.
Yeah. Uh, oh man. No, I think no, the challenge was good.
Uh,
Um, I think it's one of the things where you go into it, and it's like, oh shit. to where people could lose their vote, and we kind of knew that going in because of next time on Survivor from last episode. But the part that they could potentially get it back was kind of like one of those things where it led to an interesting like discussion back at like tribal council, because it's like, or not tribal council, before tribal council, when they arrive at tribal, or when they arrive at the tribe, because it's like, okay, well, it's hard to really, and they've even talked about, yeah, we can like strategize a little bit, but we don't know what cards we're playing with it. We don't know who regains their vote.
Yeah.
So like there was a lot of mystery and stuff that kind of like happened in this episode. But I mean, like, granted, it was for a Kendra elimination, and not saying that Kendra, she was entertaining and whatnot, but it was like one of the things where it wasn't like, oh shit, they got rid of Kelly like last episode, or oh shit.
Yeah.
I mean, even I feel like if Jake went out here, it would suck that Jake went, because I like the dude, but it would have been a straightforward vote
Yeah.
either way.
Yeah, I felt like Kendra was definitely the weird choice from the Bello people available. I felt, I mean, I guess Katura must be doing a somewhat social game with Reba because, I feel like if I had to choose like the next power player who I would probably take out, I would probably be choosing Katura over Kendra. Kendra just feels like someone who you can easily read and manipulate moving forward, whereas Katura seems someone who's going to see if you're bullshitting her more often. She's going to call you out. She's going to stir the pot.
If we're talking about perception, yeah, but I don't know, maybe because Kendra was super hard on getting on D, as well as like
Yeah,
Katura, all she cares about is getting rid of Bruce. And
yeah,
she, other than that, she's been kind of like low key, like, not really
yeah,
trying to ruffle too many feathers or cause too much chaos.
yeah,
So, like, sometimes that's enough to not have people bother you,
yeah.
essentially.
Yeah, maybe. Interesting though, because Dee obviously wanted to take out Kendra because of her bringing up the name. Emily does it this episode to Austin and Drew,
Yeah.
and I don't think that got back to Dee. I don't think Dee knew that Emily said that, and the fact that those two are maybe not revealing that to Dee. I mean, maybe they could just be afraid that if they reveal it to Dee is going to want to take out someone who should be working with them, so they're going to keep
Yeah.
that till a little later into the game. Um, but interesting to note that at least as of what we're seeing right now, that was not revealed to Dee.
That is true. Um, it's we will there be a payoff to that? We'll see.
Yeah,
But it is, it makes sense. Emily, and like they even said, it's like, Emily is seeing us core four, and like, we're tight with like everyone, but like the core four is the core four, not the core five. It
yeah,
doesn't rhyme that way. So, which one are you gonna go with?
yeah.
Um, so it makes sense of like being like, hey, we should probably turn each other, especially if she feels like the bottom of this five.
Hmm.
Especially with her two closest allies are, you know, Austin and Drew.
Yeah.
And it's like I hate saying making this comparison because yeah, I've been in this position before, but it's kind of like, oh, your best friend is not you're not their best friend,
Hmm.
and then it kind of sucks because it's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah. It's like one of those situations, and I've been there before, so I'm not just like calling anyone out. But like, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, you're my best friend. You're a friend. Wait, what? And that was kind of like the how Emily was feeling, and then she kind of got that little confirmation where they were like, "Hey, let's change the subject. Let's change it to yeah, let's get out Jake or D or not D. Let's get out Jake or Kendra. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and yeah, because Emily couldn't do anything. I mean, it just was it didn't matter. Honestly, how that conversation went with her because it was just going to be what happens there. So, I mean, if we get a final four of that Reba, I think D wins. I think she'll also be pretty good at fire. Honestly, I
oh yeah,
could see her
I see it.
definitely. being good at it. And I think she beats Austin, Drew, and Julie in the end. I think that's what everyone's saying right now, and we're hearing that at Final Nine, which
Yeah,
typically is like concerning. But if this is just a lock and loaded alliance, that's good. That would be
yeah,
good for her to be hearing that, because that means that she gets the end. Her story is told. Like she's
yeah.
already just the front runner by a miles.
It was already kind of like paid for her, and she just walked the path.
Yeah.
Uh, I would say, when you say it that way, makes a lot of sense. I do think there is an argument for Austin, but
Yeah.
like it's one of the things where perception is reality.
Yeah.
And when Austin is listing out his resume, because it is impressive, but it's like, sometimes perception matters more than what actually happened.
Yeah, yeah. I remember, using season 39 as an example, like Dean had all of these advantages that he had, and it didn't matter because he just didn't use them in any way that actually affected the game.
Influence. Yeah.
And if they're just the power lions and it doesn't really matter what his idols do, you don't care about that. Like we care
Yeah.
about it because we're watching it in this short amount of time, and they want to show us all this stuff, so they're going to give him content. We care about the sandwiches,
Yeah.
like all of that stuff was something we care, but like the people out there don't necessarily care about all that stuff. They care about the relationships that is being formed and who they're all perceiving as the actual mastermind of the alliance, which is D.
Yeah. Yeah. I see that.
Yeah.
Uh, all right,
And
go
and
ahead.
then yeah, we'll basically just see, does Drew or Julie lose at fire?
Tough to say.
Yeah,
I mean, there's still, I don't know. It's one of the things where, yeah, it's starting to become a bit more like, oh yeah, maybe the narrative is just the Reba 4 making it to the end. However, it's like, my inner survivor thing, it's like, okay, maybe there will be some surprises here or there. You
yeah.
never know. Um,
I'm
but we'll see.
hoping.
We're hoping.
We definitely needed, I think, this episode to keep it, because now it's hitting that downward where the avalanche can happen a lot more in a way that we don't want it to.
Yeah, I can understand that concern.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
Okay.
right.
Let's get into confessionals here.
Okay.
Okay. So still the front runner is Emily. She got 7 confessionals this episode. So she's now at 47 confessionals. Pretty good, pretty good. Drew still pretty much our storyteller for the season, coming here at second with 43 confessionals. So he's hit the over 40 mark. Next up, we do have Austin with 39 confessionals. So he's doing pretty good, pretty good. Then we got Katura with 37 confessionals. Um, I will shout out real quick Kendra, who goes out in this episode, had 35 confessionals.
Okay.
So a decent amount to go home with, at least.
How many was this episode? Because I feel like she did get quite a bit of
Yeah,
coverage.
she had 6 confessionals. So
Okay.
definitely a big episode for her. Um, and then let's see who else we got. We got Bruce then at 34 confessionals.
Feels
Uh,
like he shot up a bit too.
yeah, he got 5 more this episode. Bruce really got a big buff in episode 6 when he got 10 confessionals.
That was
Yeah,
what was episode 6? That was the Mergatory episode, right?
yeah.
Yeah. All right. That makes sense.
Yep, yep. And then D is at 30 confessionals. Um, and then Jake is at 28 confessionals, and then Julie is at 22.
Okay. Hmm. It's weird too, because like it feels like when you say D and Jake are near the bottom,
Yeah, it
that
feels
just
like
doesn't.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think they're getting huge edits.
Yeah, like I was like, wait a sec. Also, I will say with Jake, I think his catchphrase. It's similar to Owen Wilson's, but it's like a specific kind of wow or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, which I think is funny. Like I feel like Jake is such a character where yeah, like he always has like something to say or like he has like a memorable presence. And that's saying something because he goes out there as kind of like an everyman, but there's just something about him that's so like memorable, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, he's been great on the season. It does feel like he has way more confessionals. I feel like
Yeah,
they're making him as like one of the main characters in my opinion, like a
agreed.
top 3 or 4, but yeah, he's over here second to last in confessionals.
It's weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing with D, who also seems like a very prominent person. Like when you were telling me the numbers, but wait, what? Maybe it's also partially due to we are definitely starting to dwindle in numbers as well. So it's
Yeah.
like, obviously more people, especially if they're more relevant. I don't want to say relevant because I feel like pretty much everyone at this point is kind of relevant. There's
Mhm.
no someone where it's like, they're just kind of there. Um, I
Yeah.
would say the only person that slightly obviously like Julie doesn't have like the most things, but she's part of the core four. Katura has this whole Dinkelberg kind of like vendetta against Bruce. And like Bruce, obviously, with him being such a focal point of a lot of like tribal, like just like, hey, should we get rid of Bruce? Well, we can't get rid of Bruce.
Yeah.
Like, and then Emily obviously being the swing and the last person of the Lulu Losers, it's like I don't feel like anyone left is like irrelevant.
Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah, I mean the 90 minutes has definitely helped in that aspect.
Yeah,
It feels like they're able to give at least a few minutes to some of the characters who maybe don't matter in the grand scheme of things.
yeah, or at least at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm looking at these and like the lowest amount of confessionals from this episode was Jake with 4 confessionals.
Not too shabby, really.
Yeah, so whereas typically at this point, like you're getting people still with like one confessional
Yeah.
if this is an hour.
Well, all right. But I mean that's also a new thing too. It's kind of like similar to what we were talking about with most improved game and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And comparing like dip between seasons and whatnot. It's one of those things too where it's like because we have a different like runtime, it also is like, well, people are getting more confessionals. So it's like I'm in the same boat with like Emily. Math's not my greatest subject. Like if I take down the pen and paper and like really like think about it, maybe I could figure out like, oh well, if they would have to reach this amount and like do all the like fractions and whatnot and the cross multiplication, but
Yeah. Okay, let's play a fun game here, Ryan. I want you to guess how many confessionals you think has been said so far in the game of Survivor season 45.
in season 45. Oh man, that's because you just gave me a lot of the numbers.
Yeah.
Also,
I gave you the numbers of people still in the game.
of still in the game,
Yeah. Because this is everyone, including first boots.
but uh, I actually want to give it an effort.
Okay. Don't take too long. Let's
All right,
figure
so
this
I'm
out.
counting up people. I'm kind of giving rough things because I'm like, fuck, how many did he say for this person? Da, 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 da. Dang, now I'm missing. mm, Damn you. You know my weakness is competitions. All right, I think I'm just gonna give a rough estimate of 350.
That is too low.
Too low. 400.
That is still too low.
500.
That is too high now.
Okay, 450.
That is too low.
Okay, I gave you a bunch of things. How many?
It's 476.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, that's interesting. Um, so yeah, fractions, all that. For those at home who have free time, I don't have it. Or if I do, I spend it with other things, and then I get an audition and I have to spend time on that. So
Oh.
I don't have time to do the math. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's good. But yeah, I feel like 476 is more confessionals than some other seasons get at the end of their season. So
Yeah.
it definitely feels,
Yeah.
it definitely feels like we can see the difference.
Agreed. All
Okay,
right.
let's get into MVP and LVP of this episode.
All right. MVP. You know, I might actually give it to D.
Oh, really?
It's like if we look at like positioning, she got rid of her target. She was able to convince her alliance. She seems pretty strong with it. I mean, like, yeah, I'll say D.
Yes, I am going to go with Austin actually. I think that he did need to win that brain puzzle.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it that then it could have been a little more up in the air of who's going home
Yeah.
because both him and Emily wouldn't have been able to vote to make anything there. Katura would have also, so it would have felt more like it was a even tie in terms of votes. Uh so the fact that that didn't happen because Austin won a puzzle, I think kind of created this scenario where they just had all the power.
Yeah, I can see that. Like,
Mhm.
obviously, I like Austin. He was if I wasn't so smitten by J Maya, who I would have chosen as my winner pick.
Yeah.
Uh so like and like, I've been liking his gameplay. So like, I didn't want to be like, oh, I'm just gonna choose it again. But
Uh,
yeah.
yeah.
All right. So as for LVP,
LVP.
it's tough because, I don't know.
I don't think
Like,
anyone's played a terrible game this episode, considering everything.
I don't know. And also it's like with the votes being not like Katora and Emily, they couldn't vote. Granted, I will say Emily with the mishap of like, oh, by her like presenting D and stuff, she has kind of like fractured things a little bit. Granted, she's already
Yeah.
on the bottom, but it could be one of the things where it's like, you know, Emily tried to turn on us. Jake is feeling at the bottom of his. Maybe he could be our new fifth.
Uh-huh.
So I'm just gonna say Emily. It's not that she played like a bad game, but I would say
Uh-huh.
out of all the like mistakes someone could have made, that, or I'll give LVP to the person who decided to just give them a chicken for the reward. They get the LVP. It's like what the
Yeah.
like
Uh
no, not even like corn or some vegetables or something. Not even a starch, or just like take
yeah.
like two, three sodas from Crafty and just
Yeah.
give it to them. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Well, I am actually going to give it to one of the Reba 4, surprisingly, and I'm going to give it to Julie as the LVP because she made it very clear in the episodes, that she wants to take out Jake. She wants to take him out because, he voted for her.
yeah,
So in her game, she doesn't want to have him in here. But she's kind of being the one being dragged by this core 4
yeah,
as someone in the core 4, but I think the one that maybe is has the least amount of say in there, and I think this was one that really made it apparent, and we've seen this earlier
I
too, with the Sean votes, when they were D was trying to make the call to still keep Sean, take out Sifu, and she didn't want to do that, so she was able to do it, but that was because the vote was already in such a weird spot that it didn't really matter how
yeah,
she's like she was able to be able to just go ahead and do it. But now she's kind of in a situation where she has to vote with her people, and they're kind of just saying no, we're doing this, and she just doesn't have that power. So I think this was the one that really made it clear, like if she's making it far in the game, it's just to be the goats that they're bringing to the end, or final four fire making as someone that you think maybe you could take out. But I maybe Julie's
yeah.
also good at fire. I don't know.
We never know. I mean, she's also not doing well when it comes to the confessionals. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a very valid choice.
Yeah.
Will not dispute.
Yep.
All
Okay.
right. So, believe that is everything. Also, I haven't brought this up, but I'm a little nervous because if we look at our good old sheet of our fantasy draft, I
Uh-huh.
have three people left.
You do.
Granted, one of them's Austin, so I think
Yeah.
I'm good. But I have Bruce and Katura,
That
whereas,
is so funny that
and like, I'm low key worried that I'm gonna end up going to the finale with no one again
I think
because, like,
Austin's in the finale. I think he is.
I don't know, the universe likes messing with me. Um, but like, because here's how things kind of panned out. You lost Hannah and you lost Brandon 2 episodes in a row. I'm like, okay, might actually have a solid chance. And then 16th place through 12th place were all mine. We're talking 5 different people,
Yeah.
Joe. And then you lost, and then okay, then you get Caleb, you get Kelly.
Yeah, which by the way were my top two. So I did
Yeah,
lose, in my opinion, the two people I most thought were winning this game.
true. And then the pendulum swung back to me, and I'm like, okay. And it's one of those things where I was even like looking at it a little bit earlier today when I was killing time before work. And then I'm like, I don't want to go into the deep dive of like what I need to place where to possibly win this thing. It's all gone. It's like, but yeah, I'm worried that I'm gonna have no one again.
Yeah.
Uh
Yeah.
anyway, small little thing.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I do think Austin's making it to the end. I do think Bruce and Katora. I would not be surprised if next episode Bruce plays his idol and shenanigans happens and Katora goes out because of Bruce's idol, and then Bruce goes out the next week.
That'd be nuts.
Yeah, like I could see that world happening. So definitely something to look out there. But yeah, that it's definitely looking rough though, I will say. I was having buyer remorse for my list after week 2.
Well, I mean, yeah, after you lose 2 people,
Yeah,
uh
two people, and they were, somewhat high on my ranking. And Emily, I wasn't fully sold on Emily still.
yeah.
Obviously Joey wasn't huge. I don't think Jake was someone I was still thinking to win. It felt like I maybe had like Kelly was, I think, the only one I thought had a chance at that time. Because
It's
even
just
yeah, even Caleb, I thought like I think he was going to get targeted at when they hit the merge. So
we even
I was
said we even said going into the season that this was going to be a tough one to read.
yeah.
But I feel like I just need to pull George Costanza for 46. And
Yeah.
it's like whatever I'm thinking, I just need to do the opposite.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's how I won with Jam Jam. Yeah,
the thing is, I know the universe to be like, okay. And I low key did that this season where I'm like, yes, I really, you know, thought that J Maya was awesome and stuff and be like, I'm going to choose her as my winner pick.
yeah,
That was also me being like, hey, let me go against the thing and do the opposite. Because I was like, I was going to choose Austin. He was up there. And I was like, well, maybe if I chose J Maya, that's something that's out of the blue, possibly. And
mhm,
then the universe is like, no.
yeah. Well,
And we're going to end with,
you can do it now. It doesn't matter if you choose someone who your first pick is a pre-merger because it already happened.
I know.
So I
Mergatory.
yeah
Clarification, mergatory.
I chose Kelly because I was like, there's no way I could see her going out pre-merge. I thought she was just too good of a player for that to happen, and it happened. I was right, but unfortunately, not the player to win the whole thing. So
All right. Well, to those of you who celebrate Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving. And for those of you who participate in Black Friday or Cyber Monday, smart responsibly. I am so tired. Shop responsibly. Do not trample over people. I just watched Thanksgiving and good God, great fun horror movie. But I think even MatPat put something out about Black Friday shopping and how to do well on it. I don't know if
Uh-huh.
it's I haven't seen it yet, but just be smart, use your best judgment.
Yep.
In the comments below, since tis the season, what are y'all thankful for?
Yep. Let us know. Let's know how thankful you are for a pretty good season so far. I mean, I'm negative on this episode, but it's the first time I think I'm really being actually negative on
Yeah.
something. So that's pretty good considering Modern Survivor.
Yeah. All right, guys. We will see you in the next episode. Until then, we'll see you then. Usually you go and then I say
Yeah,
peace.
I know you just went for it. So
I
I was
fucked
like,
up.
okay, well, we'll see you in the next one.